Chapter 161. Qinya had originally thought that Yizizi would stick to her very much, but I didn't expect that. Yizizi would be snatched away by her younger sister. It's just a few pieces of clothing, do you think that it'll hurt or not? Yihua walked in front of Qinya and said faintly, this is just the beginning, in the future, you will have to suffer. After finished speaking, Yihua walked into the bedroom and prepared to take a bath. Qinya seemed to be able to see through why Yihua was worried. Look at that smug look on her little sister's face, as if I have a lot of beautiful clothes that you don't. Meanwhile, Zizi's eyes were shining brightly, and her face was filled with envy. Letting out a sigh, Qinya walked into the bedroom, and just happened to see that Yihua was currently changing his clothes. Originally, Qinya wanted to avoid Yihua for a while, but thinking that they were already an old couple, what was the point of avoiding Yihua? What's wrong? You're not going to seduce them anymore. Go to hell. Qinya snorted. Since you asked Yizizi to come over and live with me, you will have to be responsible for her in the future. Yihua said faintly, then walked into the bathroom. Qinya let out a deep sigh, then sat on the bedside and covered her face. Yizizi doesn't seem to be that lowly that she looks like on the surface. At this moment, in the Bai family in the far north, Bai Cixin held the 9 demons punishing tower in her hands and studied it carefully. Meanwhile, the black mist above the 9 demons punishing tower slowly wrapped around Bai Cixin's hands. Wang Debao and Bai Qi stood at the side. Honey, be careful. Wang Debao shouted worriedly. Bai Cixin shook her head and said softly, I'm fine. Don't be nervous. Sure enough, the black fog only circled around for a while before shrinking back into the tower. We have the 9 demons punishing pagoda. Our Bai family can also become an aristocratic family. Bai Cixin slowly put down the 9 demons punishing tower. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the yearning for power. Congratulations on getting your wish, big sister, Bai Qi said with a smile. Wang Debao was the same. Congratulations, my wife. Bai Cixin chuckled. Our Bai family is not the only one who has an ancient godly device, the Shao family also has one. However, there is only one spot. Sis, why don't we destroy the Shao family? Bai Qi suggested. Bai Cixin picked up the teacup, blew on it gently, and took a sip. I want to, but there are rules. Shao Yi is at his weakest right now. This is indeed a good opportunity. Wang Debao said in a deep voice, how about I go there and probe it first? There's no need for that, so as to avoid alerting the enemy. Seizing the ancient godly item and squeezing into the aristocratic families is only the first step, and our next step is not just the aristocratic families, but also the 3 big shots that restrict the aristocratic families. Speaking of the 3 tycoons, Wang Debao and Bai Qi's expressions became grave. In order to become an aristocratic family, the first thing they needed was an ancient godly item. Every 5 years, there would be a selection. Originally, the Shao family had already entered the ranks of aristocratic families, but unfortunately, another ancient godly item had appeared, causing them to have to fight for that slot. For the aristocratic families, the first reaction was that they were mysterious, but for the 3 giants above the aristocratic families, they were even more elusive. After all, no one from the 3 giants had ever appeared before. No one knew what they were capable of, where they were, or how strong they were. However, there was one thing that could be seen clearly, and that was that all of the aristocratic families were restricted by the 3 big shots. If not, they would have fought with each other a long time ago. Who didn't want to collect more ancient godly items? Thus, the 3 big shots declared that all aristocratic families could only possess one ancient godly item, and they were not allowed to participate in the worldly plundering. Those who violated this rule would be exterminated. From this point, it could be seen how big of a risk Tang Wushuang had taken to invite Yi Shao over. Fortunately, Yi Shao left in the end. Bai Cixin put down the teacup in her hand and said faintly, "Hubby, have you transferred all of your companies over? Once this matter is out of the south, you won't be able to go there anymore. Wife, don't worry, the headquarters in Gao Hai City is just an empty shell." Wang Debao was a little smug. Bai Cixin praised, "Hubby, not bad, you even know how to prepare for a rainy day. Learning from my wife, I definitely have some experience." "Then, hubby, what kind of experience did you conclude this time?" Bai Cixin said with a gentle smile. Wang Debao was instantly stupefied. Even Bai Qi couldn't bear to look straight at him. "Who asked you to act cool?" Wang Debao coughed lightly and said gravely, "This time, under the wise leadership of my wife, it wasn't easy for us to obtain a great victory. If it wasn't for my wife's intelligence, how could I, your husband, be able to succeed so easily?" Bai Cixin covered her mouth and laughed lightly. "To be able to receive such a high evaluation from my husband, I, your wife, am overwhelmed by the favor. It's what I should do, it's what I should do." Wang Debao laughed mischievously. He was looking forward to the reward very much. After withdrawing her smile, Bai Cixin asked seriously, "Hubby, tell me what happened last night in detail, don't leave out any details." "All right." In the next hour, Wang Debao fully displayed his eloquence, turning himself into an undying hero, and obtained the most valuable treasure. Brother-in-law is truly amazing, to be able to deceive those few families. Bai Qi sighed. "This brother-in-law of mine looks like a simpleton, but in actuality, he is full of evil tricks." After hearing what Bai Qi said, Bai Cixin didn't say anything, and with a grave expression, she stood up. "You said that the black robe appeared at the start, and he even brought along Yunsek's sect head, Sun Fang. And in the end, he ran away for no reason." "That's right, I am also puzzled. They suddenly appeared, and I thought that they were also after the ancient godly item, but who knew that they would run away?" Wang Debao also didn't understand what was going on. Sun Fang's reputation had already spread far and wide a few days ago, and yet, this black robe brought her out again. Making her furious. Making her hate. Could it be that the black robe wants to make her his own? Bai Cixin muttered. "Big sister, you can even think of this." Bai Qi exclaimed. Wang Debao chose to remain silent, otherwise, he would have to ask more questions later on. Bai Cixin continued, "Even though I've never seen that black robe before, I'm sure that a powerhouse like him wouldn't do something so despicable. Someone must have slandered him, and Black Robe took advantage of this to isolate Sun Fang. This is also why Black Robe suddenly appeared. He wanted everyone to slander Sun Fang, so that Sun Fang could see her situation clearly." After hearing what Bai Cixin said, Wang Debao's expression became grave, and he let out a breath. "That Black Robe is too terrifying, his thoughts are actually so meticulous." "What happened to the little girl in the coffin in the end?" Bai Cixin asked. Wang Debao shook his head. "I don't know, at that time, I took the 9 demons punishing tower and ran away. Who would have the time to care about a corpse?" "Who is that Sung Di who suddenly appeared?" "Who knows, but he seems to be in contact with the people in the north." Wang Debao said. "What about the people that you brought with you?" Bai Cixin asked. "I can't contact all of them. I heard that He Feng, Shuzhenhai, and Man Kai didn't come back either. It's as if they disappeared from the world." Bai Cixin took a deep breath. "Hubby, Bai Qi, I feel that this matter isn't that simple. We have to be careful right now. The forces in the south will definitely not let what happened last night go. There is going to be a tough battle soon. Bai Qi, you go and make arrangements." "All right, big sister." After speaking, Bai Qi took the lead and left. "What about me?" Wang Debao asked with a smile. Bai Cixin slowly walked over and held onto her husband's hand, then said tenderly, "Hubby has worked hard for an entire night outside. Of course I have to reward you. F***K, the main show is coming." The two came to the bedroom, and Bai Cixin took a charming look at Wang Debao. Hubby, this time I bought an enhanced version of popping candy, and it's even spicy. It should taste good if you pair it with iced water. Gue Qingren's gaze turned intent, and he slowly said, Wushuang, not only do you not have the drive to improve, but the women you teach are also lawless. Women shouldn't interrupt when men are talking. Quan Anrong's pretty face instantly collapsed. You two leave first. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Originally, I thought that by bringing the two of them by my side, they would be of some use. After all, their brains were very good, but I didn't expect that it would be like this. Mu Jia pulled Quan Anrong away quickly. Her husband's master was moody and very strange. He could even be so engrossed in reading novels. Master, they are not sensible, please don't be angry. Tang Wushuang fawned. Right now, in this kind of situation, he still needed his master's help. They don't know any better, and you don't know any better either. This woman has messed up your mind. Tang Wushuang hurriedly replied, Yes, 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 what teacher said is correct. Back then, I saved you on a whim and taught you some cultivation techniques. You performed well in the past few years, but this year has disappointed me. When you go out, don't say that you are my disciple. Tang Wushuang lowered his head and listened to his master's lecture. Gue Qingren let out a sigh of relief. The 9-devil punishment tower is in Bai family's hands. Hearing that master changed the topic, and it was an ancient godly item, Tang Wushuang felt that his hope was ignited again. As long as master is willing to make a move, then everything will go smoothly. That is indeed what the scout reported. After Wang Debao obtained the 9-devil punishment tower, he hurriedly rushed to Zijin City and went to Bai family. Gue Qingren paused for a moment. Right now, Bai family has an ancient godly item, Shao family also has one, but you don't. Could it be that you still want master to help you snatch it? Disciple doesn't dare. The rules of aristocratic families cannot be changed. If you want to squeeze in, you have to snatch it. Which family do you think is easy to snatch? Gue Qingren asked faintly. Is there a need to ask? It is definitely Shao family Xinyuan sword. Shao family. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Since you know it is Shao family, why didn't you make a move? Gue Qingren asked back. Tang Wushuang still remembered their old relationship. After all, Shao Yi had helped him quite a bit back then. Now, it is really hard to stab him in the back. When one is in a great position, one will slay a god, not to mention an individual. Disciple has learned his lesson. The living room instantly quietened down, and Tang Wushuang didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I heard that everyone died last night, and all of them were sucked dry. Gue Qingren suddenly asked. And the news just spread out, and the 3 major powers in the north also went missing. Gue Qingren said calmly, seems like it was done by the person in the coffin. Master, you know about it. If I didn't guess wrongly, all of you fell into a trap. Gue Qingren laughed lightly, picked up the Snickers bar on the table, opened the packaging, and slowly chewed on it. Tang Wushuang turned pale with fright, and he instantly understood something. Master, compared to this person, we are about the same. Tang Wushuang's heart sunk. Master actually has such a high evaluation of this person, unimaginable. That's right, what is going on with that black robe? Gue Qingren continued to ask. Tang Wushuang told him the cause of the matter, and Gue Qingren fell into contemplation after listening to it. After a long time, Gue Qingren said faintly, this black robe isn't a big deal, the important point is the person behind him. But right now, everyone in the circle is saying that the black robe is the boss. Gue Qingren's gaze turned cold. I should have really killed all of those women of yours. Did your brain get clamped by women until you became stupid? You can't even see through this kind of scheme. But, Wushuang, let master ask you a question. When have you seen Master make a move before? Tang Wushuang swallowed his saliva. Indeed, I have never seen Master make a move before. Never. A truly powerful person would not even spare a glance for ants. In his eyes, ants are merely dust. Gue Qingren said in a deep voice, as if he had met his match. Master is powerful like this. Tang Wushuang immediately bootlicked. As expected, it is useful. Gue Qingren leaned on the sofa, and with a deep gaze, he said faintly, Master has a feeling that the dispute between the North and the South was planned by this bar. Wushuang, investigate this bar properly. Disciple understands, Master, then who exactly is the boss of this bar? Gue Qingren let out a heavy sigh. If it isn't that boss, then it is that security guard. One of them is the mastermind behind the scenes. All right, Master is going to rest now. Master, do you want Disciple to make arrangements for you? It is better for you to keep those useless women for yourself. Don't forget to help Master tie up that author. If he doesn't write, I will break his legs. Chapter 163. In another place in Zijin City, it had lost its former glory and seemed very gloomy. At night, the entire mansion would be pitch black like a haunted house. This was the once glorious Shao mansion. At this moment, Shao Yi was sitting cross-legged in his secret room and cultivating. However, could his heart calm down? From his furrowed brows, it could be seen that he could not calm down. His beloved wife had died, but he did not even dare to hold a funeral. Her body was still sealed in ice. His son only knew that his mother had gone on a business trip. It had only been a few days and he was already clamoring for his mother to come back. However, could she come back? She could not. Opening his eyes, Shao Yi's eyes were bloodshot. The battle with the black-robed man had caused his blood to flow in reverse and left behind a root that could not be removed. His beloved wife's death had damaged his heart and veins. With these kinds of injuries, there was no way he could recover and he would not be able to hold on for long. However, he was dead. What about them? What about the children? His former enemies would turn their spears to them. Thinking about this, blood flowed out from the corner of Shao Yi's mouth. He was beyond cure. Dragging his heavy body, Shao Yi opened the door to the secret room. However, the moment he walked out, his slightly bent back straightened. He swallowed his bitterness to prevent the women from worrying. Enduring the chaotic spirit energy in his body, Shao Yi came to the main hall. Who would have thought that all the women would be gathered together as if they were having a meeting? Big brother Shao, you came out of seclusion. Yu Qi quickly went up to support him. Her stomach was already slightly bulging. Looking at Yu Qi's stomach, Shao Yi squeezed out a smile. Are you all right? And, big brother Shao, don't worry about us. We are fine. Yu Qi supported Shao Yi as they sat on the main seat. Shu Nan's face was calm as she walked to her husband's side and wanted to take his pulse. Shao Yi knew what Shu Nan wanted to do, so he dodged. Not only was his seclusion useless, but his injuries had worsened. He did not want them to know about this. Even if they wanted to know, this was not the time. Shu Nan frowned and was very worried. The more her husband acted like this, the more serious his injuries were. What are you guys talking about? Shao Yi tried to maintain a relaxed state. He had been in seclusion these past few days and did not know about the outside world. Yu Qi smiled and said, nothing, it's just company matters. Do you need to do this to the company's matters? Just say it, no matter how big the matter is, it is already in the past. Shao Yi laughed bitterly. If I can go back in time, I should learn from Wang Debao and return the money. He had thoroughly played out the phrase, losing one's wife and losing one's soldiers after losing one's wife. The girls looked at each other. Finally, Shu Nan told them what had happened these days. Wushuang is here to give money. Xiao Yi felt gratified. At least he hadn't made friends with this brother for nothing. Yu Qi didn't understand it that way. Brother Xiao, when Wushuang came that day, you were already in seclusion, and he looked a little absent-minded. I don't think it was as simple as giving him money. Maybe he's worried about my injuries. Wushuang isn't as bad as the other families. Xiao Yi's voice wasn't strong and was very weak. The women did not continue to speak, lest they made their husbands angry. They had to take it slow, because the next matter would be even more serious. After a long time, Xiao Yi listened to everything and didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, he let out a sigh of relief. The heavens wanted my Xiao family to die. The women didn't say anything. They didn't want to continue to provoke their men. Yu Qi said seriously, Brother Xiao, the Bai family might do something bad to us. We should plan ahead. Bai family? I'm afraid it's not just the Bai family. The Xian Yuan sword in my hand is a hot potato that everyone wants. Xiao Yi said coldly. If a tiger fell to the plains, it would be bullied by dogs. Brother Xiao, how about we hand over the sword and let them do whatever they want? Shu Nan's suggestion was probably what all the women were thinking. If the sword was gone, it was fine as long as the person was still alive. However, Xiao Yi didn't think so. If the sword was gone, it would only speed up the process of death. They didn't dare to do anything now because they didn't know how injured they were. Once they found out, they would probably attack. The only thing they could do now was to use the Xian Yuan sword to exchange for their lives. Don't worry, I have plans. Xiao Yi smiled. If the sword couldn't exchange for their safety, then he would exchange for his life. The women had blind trust in their husbands. They thought that Xiao Yi really had a good idea, so they were happy. Brother Xiao, let's eat first. Only when we are full will we have the strength to do things. Yu Qi said tenderly. Together with Shu Nan, she helped Xiao Yi to stand up. And Shu Nan took this opportunity to immediately check her husband's pulse. Her face that was originally still red immediately became pale like a piece of white paper. This kind of pulse is the sign of death. That's why the words I said just now were all lies. Brother Xiao is going to die. Xiao Yi took a look at Shu Nan. His meaning was very clear, he was telling her not to speak carelessly. The happy atmosphere on the dining table was no longer like it was in the past. Meanwhile, everyone in the bar started eating. Crayfish feast, Qingye was immediately stupefied. This is revenge for me for not serving him well during those few days. Not only is he a jealous king, he is also a miser. Wow, crayfish, Zizi loves it the most. Yi Zizi immediately wore her gloves. Yihua coughed lightly and hinted to Qingye. Qingye bit onto her lips and helplessly wore her gloves to peel the crayfish. After dipping the crayfish meat into the gravy, she placed it into her husband's bowl. Yihua was very satisfied. This crayfish meat is becoming more and more fragrant. Qing Yutong looked at the two of them. Just going out for a trip and they have already reconciled, this is really fast. Looking at big sister's expression, needless to say, brother-in-law definitely won. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. How could Qing Yutong let go of this time to flatter Yihua? If I want to have meat to eat, I have to flatter brother-in-law. Big brother, here, Zizi will peel the crayfish for you. Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong's mentality was not much different from each other. As for Yihua, he couldn't care so much about it. This is the treatment that a supreme overlord should enjoy, comfortable. Yi Zizi, go to school half a month later and study. Yihua said faintly while eating the crayfish meat and drinking the iced Sprite. You are letting an old monster go to school, aren't you afraid that she will eat all of the teachers in the school? As expected, upon hearing about going to school, Yi Zizi collapsed. Big brother, I don't want to go to school, I want to eat chicken. Yihua and Qin Ye's gaze immediately looked towards Qin Yutong, while Qin Yutong pretended not to hear anything and continued peeling the crayfish. Big sister, eat the crayfish. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. Qin Yutong. How can you lead a child astray? Qin Ye criticized harshly. It has only been a few hours, and you have already made an innocent and pure lowly degenerate to the point where she wants to eat chicken without even going to school. Qin Yutong raised up both of her hands and said with grievance, Brother-in-law, big sister, you really can't blame me for this. After finished speaking, Qin Yutong even pulled onto Yizizi's skirt. Big brother, big sister-in-law, you really can't blame big sister Qin. Big sister only told me how to operate the game, and also how to control the gun and snatch the airdrop. It was Zizi who got addicted to it. Yizizi said pitifully. Pooh. Chapter 164. Qin glared angrily at her little sister and shouted out, Qin Yutong, it's fine if you degenerate yourself, but Zizi is still a child, and you are already bringing her to play games at such a young age. Are you going to bring her to the disco too? Yizizi's eyes lit up at the mention of disco dancing. This was something new. However, she remained silent and pretended not to hear anything. Qin Yutong felt wronged to death. This little troublemaker, tricking me. And you are still pretending to be more pitiful than me. Sister, don't be angry. Eat some prawns to calm down. I have no appetite. Qin Ye said angrily. Thinking about how after my child was born, I was led astray by this aunt of mine, I felt that my head was a bit giddy. Yihua, why don't you reprimand her? Qin Ye was not happy with herself scolding Qin Ye, and she even wanted to pull Yihua along to scold Qin Ye's little sister. Yihua knew Yizizi very well, and he said, I've already said it before, you will be responsible for yourself. Qin Yutong became happy. I didn't expect that brother-in-law would stand on my side this time. I am so happy. Yizizi, there's no room for discussion about the study. Yihua said faintly. The main thing was that he wanted to throw Yizizi into the school and properly get along with humans. Yihua wanted Yizizi to not always think about sucking on humans, and Yihua wanted Yizizi to know how to control herself. Just look at Wei Chang, he is able to control himself so well that he is even able to think. Seeing that his honor's attitude was so unyielding, Yizizi could only seek help from Qin Ye. Sister-in-law, Zizi, are you listening to sister-in-law? Qin Ye asked with a smile on her face. Yizizi nodded vigorously. She felt that there was hope. Then listen to your eldest cousin. Yizizi was speechless. Even if he pretended to be pitiful, he wouldn't be able to escape his fate of going to school. The thought of sitting with a group of human children made him want to eat them all up. Zizi, studying is pretty good. If you don't study, you won't even be able to find a job in the future. Qin Yutong patted onto Yizizi's head and began to add insult to injury. Yizizi pouted her small mouth, then began to peel the prawn pitifully. At that time, I will make a big fuss. Yizizi, don't think about useless things. Yihua still didn't know what Yizizi was thinking about and gave a warning. The family meeting ended here, and Qin Yutong and Yizizi breathed out a sigh of relief. They felt like when they were young, they had failed their exams, and were being lectured by their parents. Qin Ye, didn't you say that you are going to take wedding photos? Hurry up and decide, in case you say that it doesn't look good when you pat me when I have a big stomach. Picking up the prawn meat that Qin Ye peeled, Yihua asked. Qin Ye pondered for a bit, then said, let's go to Sanya, the scenery there is pretty good. Furthermore, this time, we have only played for a day, so we will be able to play more if we go to Sanya. Why are we going so far away? Yihua asked while wrinkling his brows. There is a seascape over there. Longtan City is located inland, and there is only a river there. This time, we can also bring Yutong and Zizi along with us. Qin Ye felt that this method was feasible. Qin Yutong didn't want to go out and was planning to be a female otaku. Big sister, I am someone who wants to become a female streamer to earn money. Zizi also wants to eat chicken. No, you two have to go. One is the bridesmaid, and the other is the bridesmaid. It's decided. We'll set off tomorrow. The three of them exclaimed at the same time, tomorrow. That's right, I will treat you all to a vacation, and I will pay for all of the expenses. Qingye was very forthright. Since Yihua agreed to it yesterday, he followed Qingye's wishes. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong and Yizizi let out a heavy sigh. How good is it to stay at home? There is air conditioning, takeaway, and games. Why do we have to go out and suffer? After eating crayfish, Qingye joined the chicken dinner party. Yihua really didn't want to say anything. How did you teach them a lesson in the first place, and now, you are in cahoots with them? Where is your moral integrity? Because little Ali was online again. Yihua, who was bored, walked downstairs to see if the business had improved or not. However, when he went downstairs to take a look, other than his own attendants and security guards, there was no one else. How is this possible? Yihua waved his hand towards Wei Chang. Boss, what's the matter? Where is everyone? Yihua asked gravely. Wei Chang shook his head, I don't know either. A few months ago, this place was filled with people, and as long as I walked downstairs, all kinds of screams would be heard. But now, sighing, Yihua said, I am going out for a few days tomorrow. When I come back, I want to see this place filled with people. If not, I will deduct your salary. Boss, I still want to ask you for a raise in salary. Wei Chang said embarrassedly. So it turns out that finding a girlfriend costs so much, and now, I even have to pay more for gas. Yihua glared at Wei Chang, you still want to ask for a raise in salary? I am going to starve to death. Boss, there is a strong smell of stir-fried crayfish coming from your body. You still dare to talk back to me now? Subordinate doesn't dare. Wei Chang said hurriedly. Didn't I see that Zizi has returned? I am happy in my heart, so I am just being mischievous for a bit. How is the matter that I asked you to investigate? Yihua took out a cigarette and sat on the booth seat at the side. Wei Chang was slightly startled. I seem to have forgotten about it. I am still investigating. If there is really no other way, you can go and add fuel to the fire. The goal is to make them fight, the more miserable the better. Yes. After finished speaking, Yihua stood up and walked towards the outside. Boss, where are you going? Going outside to get some fresh air. Wei Chang replied. His honor even learned how to take a walk after a meal. Seems like it won't be long before he goes to square dance. Thinking about it was just thinking about it. Right now, he still had to quickly contact Death Mage. Yichin took out his phone and gave Death Mage a call. After thinking for a bit, he hung up the phone. Death Mage. Death Mage, who was currently playing the game, went into a daze and hurriedly replied, Master. His honor has ordered you to become a spy and investigate the movements of both the north and south. Wei Chang felt that this was exactly what his honor meant. After all, only a spy would be able to gather a large amount of information, and this was how all spy dramas played out. Spy. Death Mage felt that he shouldn't be called Death Mage anymore, because the quest was no longer related to death. That's right, report to me every day. Your subordinate will obey your orders. After cutting off the connection, Death Mage let out a deep sigh. The missions that his honor gave me are getting more and more difficult. How am I going to play games in the future? Bu, the sound of a max-leveled cannon rang out beside him. Sun Fong was also fishing with her phone in her hand. That serious look on her face made it seem like she was taking revenge. That's right, she was taking revenge. Since she couldn't beat him, she would use what he was best at to defeat him. But, this fishing is too much of a scam. I don't even have money anymore, and even eating 3 meals a day is a problem for me. I might as well just return the house and get back the deposit. It is impossible for me to stay on the overpass, but going to the park is a pretty good choice. In any case, if I don't kill him in this lifetime, I swear that I am not a human. Death Mage immediately typed, then used his bone finger and tapped onto Sun Fang's shoulder. I have a way to earn money, do you want to do it? After looking at Death Mage's finger, Sun Fang's brows tightly wrinkled. Death Mage is definitely not doing anything good, but even if I don't have money, I can't defeat him. After thinking for a long time, I'll do it. GGG. The entire palace was engraved with majestic divine dragons, and each of the 8 dragons coiled around a white jade stone pillar. The 8 dragons had glaring eyes and sharp claws, scales and beards on their bodies, and the dragons had the power to uproot the mountains and rivers. In the sky above the palace, there was actually a waterfall, and the sound of the waterfall was high and low, just like the melody of a zither. Green trees intertwined with each other, and the chirping of cicadas and drums could be heard. It was as if one was at this place, quietly listening to the clear melody of a flowing spring and the green breeze of an ancient pagoda tree. The waterfall flowed along the channel that was dug out and flowed down the mountain, and just happened to fall onto the mountain below. The waterfall flowed into the layer of clouds, disappearing without a trace. At this moment, there were people gathering in the palaces of the various mountains. 8 elders landed in front of this majestic palace, then bowed their bodies and waited. In front of the palace stood 4 golden-robed and silver-armored imperial guards, and their entire bodies were emitting out faint killing intent. After a long time, one of the guards shouted out, "Enter." The 8 elders slightly straightened their bodies and walked into the palace. On the throne at the center of the palace, a woman with extraordinary aura could be seen sitting on it. On her head was a dragon phoenix golden crown, and her appearance was picturesque. Although her pair of eyes were beautiful, there was a layer of frost on them. The dragon-patterned purple robe that was worn on her body made the cold aura that she was emitting rise to a peak. This was a woman that even men would not be able to raise their heads. Her name was Dong Huang Baiji. Subordinates kowtow to your majesty. The 8 elders bowed and greeted. Dong Huang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, had a calm expression on her face, and not a single ripple could be seen on her face. Dong Huang Baiji slowly raised her hand. The 8 elders stood up and stood on both sides of the palace. "Yuanda, what is the matter that requires us to discuss in the middle of the night?" Dong Huang Baiji asked faintly. A relatively short and small elder stood out, then cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, a demon has appeared in the secular world. That 9 demons punishing tower cannot be considered to be a demon." Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, seemingly not placing the matter in her eyes at all. Chapter 166. Seeing that the Empress didn't say anything, Yuanda continued to speak. The disciples who just returned from the secular world reported that over 10,000 people had died in the fight for the ancient godly item this time, and there were still 1,000 people who went missing. Those several 10,000 people had all been sucked into dried corpses, and this must have been done by the coffin person. Dong Huang Baiji took a faint glance at Yuanda, then said slowly, "So what?" Yuanda was shocked and quickly lowered his head. Not to mention that aristocratic families will be able to deal with this matter. This matter happened in the south, and it is not under our jurisdiction. If you have anything to say, just say it directly, don't beat around the bush. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly. She is already so old and cunning, could it be that she still doesn't know how to deal with this matter? It was necessary to make such a big fuss. The 8 subordinates lowered their heads and looked at each other, as if they had already discussed this beforehand. All of them knelt on the ground and said in unison, "We hope that your Majesty will think for the sake of the Donghuang bloodline and give birth to a boy as soon as possible to inherit the Donghuang's inheritance." Donghuang Baiji did not get angry. Instead, she laughed. "I presume that the 2 of you have already found a husband for this empress." Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. However, her eyes were emitting out fierce hostility. Among the 8 people, a slightly plump old man walked out. His name was Xing Han, and the beard on his chin was about to fall to the ground. He could even be used as a broom. Your Majesty, the inheritance of the bloodline is the law of the heavens, not to mention the bloodline of the Eastern Emperor. The bloodline of Nuwa is nowhere to be found, and the ancient bloodline is even rarer. Although the other 2 families are not worthy of the surname Eastern Emperor, as long as Your Majesty gives birth to a male child and inherits the inheritance of the Eastern Emperor clan will once again achieve glory. As he spoke, Xing Han knelt down again. When the others saw Xing Han kneeling down, they also knelt down. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, did not say anything. Xing Han continued, "The aristocratic families in the north are controlled by us, Donghuang, while the aristocratic families in the south are controlled by the Ji family. Although the Ying family lives in the south, they don't care about worldly affairs. I feel that the Ying family is the best choice." After a short pause, Xing Han continued, "The second son of the Ying family, Ying Kongsher, is talented and virtuous. He's also quite handsome. He's the best candidate for the Empress's husband." "Are you done?" Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. "Empress. All of you can leave." Donghuang Baiji waved her hand and stood up. Yuan De immediately rushed out. "This subordinate has something to report. It's about Long and City's Qing Bar." Donghuang Baiji's body trembled, and in an instant, all sorts of emotions appeared on her face. The 8 subordinates of Donghuang Baiji had their heads lowered in hesitation, and they did not notice the complicated changes that were happening to Donghuang Baiji. "A small leisure bar is of no importance to me." Donghuang Baiji placed her hands behind her back and prepared to leave. Yuan De hurriedly shouted out, "Your Majesty, the conflict between the north and the south this time was caused by this leisure bar's owner. His name is Yihua. So he is called Yihua. This cruel man was called Yihua. Because his back was turned, the 8 subordinates couldn't see his angry and ferocious face. However, everyone else was looking at Yuan De. Why did he bring such a small matter up? Yuan De ignored him and continued, "This man has a wife. Her name is Qinya, and she is pregnant." Every single word that Yuan De said was like a sharp blade, stabbing into the weakest part of Donghuang Baiji's heart. He had a wife. With child. Then what does that make me? Donghuang Baiji's memories instantly returned to 3 years ago. The situation on that day was more or less the same as today, just that, back then, her father was sitting on the throne, and on the second day, she ran away from the throne, and on the second day, she met with the owner of the leisure bar. She, who was in an extremely bad mood, was convinced by the owner of the leisure bar and ended up having sex with the owner of the bar. But when he heard that it was his first time, he felt a little better. He even said that he wouldn't touch the same woman twice and told him not to look for him. At that time, he laughed. Did he really think he was a god? He was the most narcissistic person he had ever met. After playing around in the secular world for half a month, Yihua returned to Voidless Realm. Yihua didn't expect that her father would fall sick, and at that time, she was rather worried. However, the sage doctor who was taking a look at her father's illness was actually able to tell that she was pregnant. How is this possible? However, after the diagnosis, she was dumbfounded. She was really pregnant. She didn't even need to think to know whose child it was. At that time, her father flew into a rage, and his illness worsened. Everyone advised her to abort the child. This was a disgrace to the Donghuang bloodline. However, he could not bear to do so. This was a life. After resisting for a month, she couldn't take it anymore, and running away was the only choice she had. But where could she run to? At that time, there was only one place that appeared in her mind, and that was Leisure Bar. When she was at that time, she was still thinking about some beautiful things. Although it was an accident, she was able to get to know the other half of her life. However, she never expected that she would wait day after day. Every night, she would see Leisure Bar closing its doors. She would even raise her head to look at the room on the second floor where the lights were still on. Why is it that when you are just a few meters away from me, you aren't willing to come down and take a look at me? Disappointment after disappointment caused her heart to become disheartened. After half a month, when she returned, her father had already left. That day was the darkest day of her life. It was as if she felt that the entire world was abandoning her, and she even thought of committing suicide to end her life. However, when she thought about her child, she endured it. Her child looked a lot like him. Every time she saw her daughter, she would think of that heartless man. What was laughable was that, right now, he had married a woman and was even pregnant. To only touch the same woman once, how laughable was that? To think that I actually believed it. Why were you so heartless when I was pregnant, but you were able to marry this woman? Yuanda. Dong Huang Baiji called out faintly, just that. Her tone was so oppressive that it made people tremble in fear. Subordinate is here. Regarding the matter of going to Ying family to propose marriage, I'll leave it to you. I'll marry her. After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji left with her hands behind her back. The 7 people in the palace still hadn't reacted to what just happened, and only Yuanda let out a sigh of relief. It's finally settled. Hey, what's going on? Why did Her Majesty suddenly agree to it? Xing Han walked over and asked curiously. Yuanda laughed lightly. Her Majesty has been thinking about a person. As long as that person is removed from her mind, there wouldn't be anything for her to think about anymore. The 7 people went into a daze and began to admire Yuanda. They didn't expect that Yuanda would be able to find out about what happened back then. Everyone, keep this matter a secret. It concerns the reputation of the Dong Huang family. Yuanda said with a smile, then left the palace with everyone else. Dong Huang Baiji didn't return to her room. She sat in the garden and stared blankly at the stars in the sky. Her pair of delicate hands were clenched so tightly that her nails had pierced into her palms, causing her palms to be devoid of blood. After a long while, Dong Huang Baiji walked towards her daughter's room. Before she even got close to her daughter's room, she could hear the sound of someone tapping on a keyboard. Dong Huang Baiji's expression immediately became cold as she fiercely pushed open the door and entered the room. Dong Huangli, who was currently playing a game, was startled. She hurriedly turned off her computer, then lowered her head and stood obediently at the side. Kneel down. Dong Huangli took down her keyboard, then with a plop sound, knelt down onto the keyboard. Chapter 167. Sitting on her daughter's bed, Dong Huang Baiji caressed the bedsheet. Looking at her daughter who was crying softly, Dong Huang Baiji's eyes couldn't help but turn red. Your heartless father is a liar. Dong Huangli wiped away her tears, and when she saw that her mother's eyes were red, she couldn't help but stand up and throw herself into her mother's embrace. Mother, don't cry. Ollie won't play games anymore in the future. I promise that I will study diligently every day and learn martial techniques. Dong Huangli hugged onto her mother's waist and made a vow with her childish voice. Dong Huang Baiji lightly hugged onto her daughter. Dong Huang Baiji is the closest person to me, however, the person she hated the most was Yi Hua. The funny thing was that he was still waiting, but this was the result. Yi Hua. Since you are heartless, then don't blame me for being heartless. Second floor of Leisure Bar. Ollie got disconnected. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. Yi Zizi was overjoyed and said happily, little brat finally disconnected. Wait for me to execute her and lick her. Zizi, wait a moment. Perhaps, Ollie will come online soon. Qing Ya hurriedly said. Qing Yutong rubbed onto her chin and speculated, I feel that Ollie's mother has appeared, and Ollie might be kneeling on the keyboard right now. Her mother is really something. How could she bear to let a child kneel on the keyboard? Qingye sighed. If it was her own child, she would definitely not bear to let her child kneel on the keyboard. Yihua stood up and said faintly, Qingye, it is getting late, time to sleep. Oh. Qingye dragged out her last syllable and unwillingly followed behind Yihua. After the two of them left, Qing Yutong and Yizizi looked at each other. Qing Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yizizi understood immediately. The two of them immediately changed their clothes. Yizizi loved cosplay. She had bought quite a lot of cosplay online this afternoon. There were dark, girly, sweet, and all kinds of cosplay styles. Delivery within the same city was really fast. Yihua returned to the bedroom and said to Qingye, change the quilt and bed sheet. Why? Isn't it clean? Qingye asked curiously. I don't like people who have slept with other people before. Yihua snorted and sat at the side. Qingye was confused. What do you mean by someone else slept on this bed before? Other than us, is there someone else that slept on this bed before? Suddenly, Qingye seemed to have thought of something. Isn't it just a doll? I'm really impressed. Hurry up. Alright, I'll change. Qingye said petulantly. After changing into a new blanket and bed sheet, Qingye let out a sigh of relief. Great sir, are you satisfied now? Yihua took a look. Other than me, if you put anything else on the bed in the future, see if I don't beat you up. BZZ, 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 I'm going to take a bath. After saying that, Qingye walked into the bathroom while humming a tune. Yihua twisted his neck, then changed into his pajamas and lied on the bed. For me, the Supreme Overlord, to let you hug me to sleep, just how great of a fortune are you? Not long after, Qingye walked out of the bathroom. Seems like she had a nice bath. Seeing that Yihua was already lying on the bed, she asked, aren't you going to take a bath? I washed them when I came back. Quickly go and take another shower. Qingye pulled onto Yihua's hand and pulled Yihua up. Yihua wrinkled his brows. Are you sick? Qingye sniffed. Such a big smell of smoke, let's quickly go. Yihua sighed. This woman is truly annoying. 5 minutes later, Yihua walked out of the bathroom, and Qingye, who was on the bed who was currently booking a plane ticket, went into a daze. So fast. Yihua did not say anything. After lying on the bed, he hugged onto Qingye. Qingye's face turned red. Recently, this fellow is becoming more and more shameless. In the past, I wished that I could stay far away from him, but now, I wish that I could stick onto him 24 hours a day. However, lying in Yihua's embrace felt really comfortable and gave me a sense of security. It was as if even if the sky were to collapse, Yihua would be there to hold it up, and furthermore, it was the kind that would be extremely easy. This blanket is too short. Yihua said gravely. Qingye, who was in his embrace, was startled. This fellow actually knows how to speak sweet words. Did the sun rise from the west today? Annoying, Qingye bashfully punched onto Yihua. We are already an old couple, yet you are still so flirtatious, big baddie. Yihua did not know what this woman was doing and continued, this blanket is too short. I know, I will still be together with you in my next life. Yihua was stupefied by this woman's IQ. What I am saying is that this blanket is too short. Blanket. Blanket. In order to emphasize, Yihua's exposed legs even trembled a little. Qingye seemed as if she had eaten a fly, and the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. I thought that Yihua was saying that this lifetime is too short, but I didn't expect that he was talking about a blanket. Yihua slowly lifted up Qingye's blushing face and said faintly, you are very greedy, to actually want my next life. Go and die, who wants your next life? Qingye directly buried herself in Yihua's arms. This is too embarrassing. Yihua laughed lightly and held on to his head of hair. The days are gradually not that boring anymore. Not knowing how much time had passed, Qingye suddenly asked, "Are you asleep?" "En?" Yihua responded. "I am so excited that I can't sleep." Upon thinking that they were going to take wedding photos soon, Qingye started fantasizing about what would look good on her, what would look good on Yihua. Yihua hugged onto Qingye's shoulders and said faintly, "You will naturally be able to sleep when your heart is calm." "Yihua, let me count the sheep." "Childish." Come on, I want to sleep," Qingye continued, "let me start." "1 sheep." Qingye said with her eyes closed. 2 sheep. Yihua said helplessly. 3 sheep. 4 sheep. Beautiful sheep. Lazy. Lamb. Qingye mumbled. Roasted lamb. Yihua wrinkled his brows. Lamb hotpot. Spicy lamb hotpot. Speaking until here, the two immediately opened their eyes. Qingye pouted her mouth and rubbed onto her stomach. "Hubby, I am hungry, I am a little hungry too." Yihua was originally not hungry, but as he spoke, he started to feel hungry. What is more important than eating? The two put on their pajamas and directly went out. However, right when they opened the door, they saw the 2 thieves. "What are you two doing?" Yihua shouted out. Qin Yutong and Yizizi could be seen bending their bodies and walking with small steps. This is not the main point, the main point is their dressing. "Chuyin?" Qingye asked curiously, "What are the 2 of you dressing up like this for in the middle of the night?" "To scare people." Qin Yutong immediately reacted and said, "Zizi said that she didn't eat her fill at night, so I brought her out to eat supper." "Just nice, we are going out too, let's go together." Qingye shook her head helplessly. Qin Yutong and Yizizi immediately collapsed. They originally wanted to go out to dance disco, but in the end, before they even reached the staircase, they bumped into Yihua who was going out. How can we be so unlucky? It was still that King Song Mansion's hotpot restaurant, the main point was that it was only a few steps away. Sun Fang could be seen taking the initiative and pressing Death Mage down, and Death Mage reacted quickly and pressed his bone hand onto her chest. Sun Fang looked at the bone hand on her chest blankly, and her expression was terrifyingly gloomy. TSK. On a moonless night, to actually forcefully snatch a man, a demoness. Today, I, Do Fusher, will uphold justice on behalf of the heavens and save this innocent man. A young man who wore a yellow Daoist robe could be seen suddenly appearing. On his back was a peachwood sword, and on his hand was a talisman. Follow the law. Do Fusher threw out the yellow talisman, and it just so happened to be stuck onto Sun Fang's forehead. Right now, Sun Fang received 100,000 points of violence. Are you fucking blind? It just so happens that I don't have a place to vent my anger, consider yourself unlucky. Sun Fang tore off the talisman on her forehead, and Do Fusher turned pale with fright. Demoness. You still have some skills, watch how I am going to subdue you today. Subdue your sister. Sun Fang shot out explosively, and her body turned into a faint afterimage. Death Mage who sat up picked up Sun Fang's power bank and plugged it into his phone. Bu. Do Fusher didn't expect that this malicious spirit would be so powerful. To actually not be afraid of any talismans, and to even be able to catch the peachwood sword with her bare hands. In any case, I have the ghost catching system, so how can I be beaten up by a malicious spirit? Plop. Big sister ghost, spare me. Sun Fang was currently in a berserk state, and everyone misunderstood that I had an affair with the skeleton. Even the Daoist priest thought that I was violating the skeleton. How can I not be angry? I'm going to fucking kill you. The resentment in Sun Fang's heart was indeed not light. If not, why would Do Fusher treat Sun Fang as a ghost? Dou Fusher looked at Sun Fang, who was incomparably sinister. I'm finished. It wasn't easy for me to obtain the system, and in less than a year, I'm going to die before I even have the chance to show off. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no pain coming. Could it be that this is death? Let go of me, I'm going to kill this Taoist priest who is full of nonsense. Death Mage could be seen holding on to Sun Fang's waist with one hand, while Sun Fang was baring her fangs and brandishing her claws at Dou Fusher. Dou Fusher slowly raised his head. At this moment, the moonlight just happened to shine onto Death Mage's face, and Dou Fusher's eyeballs were about to pop out. Chapter 169. Sun Fang, who had almost calmed down, was immediately lit up again. You damn Taoist, I'm going to hack you into pieces. Who's husband and wife with it? Are your dog eyes blind? Death Mage immediately typed a message with one hand, then showed it to Sun Fang. He seems to be quite rich, it won't be too late to kill him after we snatch his money. Sun Fang, who was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down, gradually calmed down and said in a sweet voice, "Let me go." Death Mage let go of Sun Fang's willowy waist. I didn't expect that a human's waist would feel so good to the touch. It is soft and very comfortable. It's no wonder that both His Honor and Master have women, this is probably what His Honor likes, right? Hugging Sun Fang at night feels very comfortable. Looking at Sun Fang, who was not far away from Death Mage seemed to have understood why His Honor wanted Sun Fang to fall madly in love with him. So this is a reward for me. I am truly stupid, only now did I understand His Honor's painstaking efforts. I didn't expect that His Honor would actually be so concerned about the private life of his subordinate. I am truly touched. Sun Fang walked up to Dou Fusher and shouted, "Hand over the money." Dou Fusher thought that he was going to die, but he didn't expect that the evil ghost couple only wanted money. "Sister Ghost, this is all I have." Dou Fusher took out his empty wallet. There was only about 20 yuan in it. He was even poorer than her. Sun Fang kicked him. It seemed like she was very angry. Don't think that I don't know. Who still carries cash these days? WeChat transfer. Sun Fang shouted. F***ck me. Now, evil ghosts are in sync with the times. They're even using WeChat to commit robbery. He had underestimated this vengeful ghost's cultivation. Bastard! Hurry up and come over here. Sun Fang shouted towards Death Mage. However, Dou Fusher, who was kneeling on the ground, was stunned. Are all ghosts so affectionate these days? Sister Gui, I'm just trying to make a living. There are fewer and fewer ghosts these days. They've all been captured by the big sections. I really don't have much money. Dou Fusher begged bitterly. Humph. So you're an orphan. Stop quibbling and transfer the money. Orphan. Dou Fusher's heart was bleeding. After adding him on WeChat, Sun Fang shouted, "Transfer 10,000 first." Now, even ghosts know that WeChat can only transfer 10,000 yuan a day. Death Mage happily accepted the 10,000 credits, then typed a few words, "Kill it." Sun Fang raised her hand. Big Sister Ghost, I can still transfer 10,000 tomorrow. Dou Fusher immediately shouted. Who cared if it was useful or not, staying alive was more important. Death Mage was overjoyed. However, Sun Fang didn't care so much. Only death could calm her heart. It was a money tree that could drop money every day. It would be a pity if it died. Death Mage hugged onto Sun Fang, who had gone berserk once again. I will buy breakfast for you. Yi Hua was a man who kept his promise. Since he had promised, he would definitely fulfill it. Qinya hugged onto Yi Hua tightly. You are not allowed. I will buy breakfast for you later. Yi Hua had no choice but to carry Qinya and throw her into the washroom to let her sober up a bit. However, the sound of Qinya fighting Yi Hua to the death could be heard from the washroom. The result was, of course, Qinya was defeated. Big sister Qing, why are big cousin and the rest so noisy? Yi Zizi lied on the bed and asked in a daze. Qin Yutong had even more of a bad sleeping posture. The blanket was kicked off the bed as she muttered, "It will be fine once you get used to it." Oh, while smoking, Yi Hua walked out of leisure bar and arrived at the entrance of the alley. 2 pancakes, one of them with eggs and sausages. Yi Hua stood in front of the aunt and shouted. Upon hearing that, the aunt smiled and said, "Have you reconciled?" Yi Hua did not speak. "Stop pretending, what is there to be shy about? Coaxing your wife is a natural thing to do. Which eye of yours saw that I am pretending? Do you believe that I will not eat here anymore in the future?" The aunt who was making pancakes laughed and said, "You should smile more. What is the point of putting on a straight face every day, especially when facing your wife?" Preposterous logic. Yi Hua said indifferently. The aunt was not convinced, and a debate began. Qinya waited for a long time and did not see Yi Hua return, and was a little worried. Thus, she ran to the entrance of the alley and actually saw Yi Hua and the aunt arguing about something. "Yi Hua, you too?" Qinya walked over and asked curiously. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and hugged onto the aunt's shoulder, then said, "My wife, I will make the decision." The aunt was speechless. "Just a few days ago, you two still look like you were about to die. If not for aunt helping you, you two would not be able to reconcile so quickly. Next time, don't expect aunt to help you." Chapter 170. While eating the aunt's crepe, Yi Hua snorted. "If it wasn't for the fact that the crepe tastes good, I wouldn't have come here to buy it from you." Qinya didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she hit Yi Hua. "What are you doing? That aunt actually said that I'm afraid of my wife. Just thinking about it makes me angry." While biting on the crepe that the aunt made, Yi Hua scolded the aunt. In actuality, every time Yi Hua went to buy breakfast, the auntie would always sincerely tell Yi Hua about it. In the beginning, Yi Hua had the intention to kill Yi Hua, but at that time, Yi Hua endured it. After a few years had passed, Yi Hua had actually gotten used to it. "If I don't listen to the auntie's nagging, I would feel like I am lacking something. Humph, isn't it good to be afraid of me?" Qinya laughed. Yi Hua chuckled and walked into leisure bar. "Stop right there, what do you mean by, hee hee?" Qinya stomped her feet, then took a bite of the Chinese jianbing. So fragrant. After returning to the second floor, everyone began to clean up their clothes. Yi Hua looked at the 3 women. Are they preparing to move or what? Especially Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi, these 2 big chests. The box was almost as tall as Yi Zizi. Qinya dragged her luggage out and looked at her sister and Zizi. "Why did you 2 bring so many things?" Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi looked at Qinya's suitcase, then looked at their own suitcase. "Cousin-in-law, your suitcase is even bigger than Zizi's." Qinya rolled her eyes at Yi Hua, who was leaning against the door. "Your big cousin's clothes are also stuffed inside. Big brother is even lazier than Zizi." Yi Hua glared at Yi Zizi, then said faintly, "Let's go." Qin Yutong cried out in surprise, "Me and Zizi still haven't changed yet, wait a moment for us." After finished speaking, Qin Yutong closed the door. When Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi appeared once again, the corner of Yi Hua and Qinya's mouth couldn't help but twitch. It is one thing for Yi Zizi to wear a princess dress and hold a small umbrella, but you, Qin Yutong, are already so big, and you are still wearing such a dress. The main point is still my face. Qinya's head was hurting. "Sister, I have another set here. Do you want to change?" Qin Yutong said elatedly. If it was only one person wearing it, it would be crazy, but if it was 2 people wearing it, 2 crazy people wearing it, at least there would be one companion. It would be best if big sister was dragged into the water, then there would be 3 crazy people. Yi Zizi turned around and giggled. "Eldest Biaoga, eldest cousin-in-law, is Zizi beautiful? It must be said that Zizi was indeed extremely cute, and there was no problem with Qin Yutong dressing up like this, but walking on the street like this, is it really suitable? Sigh, let's go. Qin Yi said dispiritedly. She felt as if she was bringing along 3 children who were going out on a trip. Arriving at the airport, Qin Yutong and Zizi instantly became the focus of attention. Basically, everyone was looking at the two of them, and taking all kinds of photos. Especially Zizi, uncles love her the most. 9 out of 10 Lolas are rich, and there's still one. Qin Yutong and Zizi were very magnanimous, and they put on various kinds of poses. An airport was forcefully turned into a cosplay exhibition, and if it wasn't for Qin Yi dragging the two of them away, the two of them would definitely play for an entire day. Qin Yi finally knew why Yihua said that on that day. My heart is so tired, I have to be their nanny. When they arrived at the VIP waiting room, they finally stopped talking, but they were still discussing all kinds of clothes. Now you know that you have a headache. Yihua sat on the sofa and said faintly while looking at a magazine. Qin Yi let out a breath. I should have listened to Yihua back then, so tired, it's all master's fault. I am just a servant. Suddenly, an arrogant middle-aged man walked in from the door, but when he saw Yihua and the others, he immediately shrunk his head and slightly turned around. Xiao Jiu, Qin Yutong shouted out. Jiu Ye's heart sunk. Why is it them again? Nothing good will come out of being together with them. However, I have already been discovered, if I were to leave just like this, sigh. Boss, lady boss. Jiu Yi smiled and walked forward. Yihua raised his head and took a look, then lowered his head and looked at the magazine again. He felt that some of the clothes in the magazine were very suitable for Qin Yi. Xiao Jiu, where are you going? Qin Yi smiled slightly, completely different from the cold-faced CEO in the past. The power of love is just too great. Jiu Yi felt very bitter in his heart. Please don't go to the same place, lady boss. I am preparing to go to Sanya. You are going to Sanya too. We are going too. Jiu Yi, other than laughing dryly, Jiu Yi didn't know how to express his current mood. Jiu Yi didn't dare to sit down. He poured a cup of water and stood at the side, waiting. Suddenly, his phone rang, and when he took out his phone to take a look, it was actually his wife who called. What's the matter? Jiu Yi asked lightly. A questioning voice could be heard coming out from the phone. Where did you go? Didn't I tell you last night? I am going to Sanya to settle some matters. Jiu Yi slightly wrinkled his brows. This wife of mine is always letting her imagination run wild every day. Sanya. To attend the ocean and sky banquet. Pfft. F***K, you can even think of this. Why don't you go write a book? Are you sick? Jiu Yi shouted lightly. The cup of water in his hand trembled, and the tea spilled onto his suit. A flight attendant could be seen slowly walking over and said delicately, Sir, your water is flowing out. Do you need me to clean it up? Jiu Yi went into a daze, and the woman on the phone was also stunned. Soon after, Jiu Yi exploded in anger. Gong Wei, you still dare to talk about going to Sanya? To actually look for a lady, if you have the ability, don't come back. Hearing the busy tone from the phone, Jiu Yi went into a daze. However, the flight attendant also heard the voice from the phone. Sir, I'm sorry for causing trouble for you. Jiu Yi sighed, then kept the 8848 titanium phone. It's fine. Sorry for disturbing you. I knew that nothing good would come out of meeting this couple. It hasn't even been a minute and my wife is going to divorce. After waiting for half an hour, Yihua and the others boarded the plane. The plane that they bought was, of course, a business class seat. After Qin Yutong and Zizi boarded the plane, they immediately went to sleep. However, Zizi was lying on Qin Yutong's body as she slept. They definitely looked like mother and daughter. Meanwhile, Qin Yi was lying on Yihua's body, quietly enjoying the moment of tranquility. Jiu Yi was just sitting at the side, but he still couldn't let go of himself. This is truly depressing. Suddenly, a flight attendant walked over. Jiu Yi raised his head and took a look, and it was actually that flight attendant from just now. "Sir, it's not good for your water stain to stick to your clothes, let me help you clean it up." The flight attendant slightly bowed her body. Jiu Yi was an experienced person, and he immediately understood what this flight attendant meant. "Interesting, since you want to help me clean it up so much, I will help you clean it up then. Where are we going?" "Sir, follow me, there is a place to change clothes here." The so-called place to change clothes was the washroom, and when Jiu Yi walked out of the washroom had indeed been cleaned up. After flying for 1.5 hours, they finally arrived at Sanya International Airport. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi were holding onto a small umbrella, and they had a sleepy look on their face, making them look very lovable. "Boss, lady boss, where are you two staying? I will send you two there," Jiu Yi said courteously, feeling that he could finally get rid of them. Chapter 171. That's too much trouble for you. Qinya also appeared to be very polite. "It's no trouble at all." "Then let's go to the Three Seasons Hotel." "Lord Zhou, why? Why are we even staying in the same hotel? Why does the heavens have to target me, Jiu Yi? I really want to stay in another hotel, but Master has already instructed me to stay in this hotel and wait for orders. Big cousin, Zizi can't walk anymore. Hug me." Yi Zizi rubbed her hazy eyes and stretched out her arms. Yi Hua let out a sigh. This fellow is truly too lazy. Just as Yi Zizi was about to carry Yi Zizi, Qingya was faster than Yi Zizi. Yi Hua was speechless. Yi Zizi could be seen hugging onto Qingya's white neck, and immediately fell asleep. Yi Zizi was famous for being lazy. When she was bored, she would sleep, and it was the kind of sleep that lasted only seconds. The longest time she slept was several months. The Three Seasons Hotel was located by the sea. Its location was excellent, and it was a 5-star hotel with complete facilities. One could face the sea when they woke up in the morning. This feeling was very comfortable, but the price was not cheap. After arriving at the hotel, Yi Zizi was once again full of energy, and was chattering non-stop with Qin Yutong. Without thinking too much, these two were definitely discussing to do something bad. There were a lot of people going in and out of the Three Seasons Hotel, causing Qingya to be a bit puzzled. Although it is currently the tourist season, the number of people here is a bit too much, right? Yi Hua felt that these people weren't ordinary people, and he was rather curious in his heart. What are so many people gathering here for? Shouldn't they be discussing about going to the north to snatch the ancient godly item? After Jiu Yi arrived at the hotel, he hurriedly took his leave. "Although I really want to hug onto this thigh, but I feel that this thigh is very dangerous, even more dangerous than those masters. The main thing is that Jiu Yi doesn't have any confidence in his heart, this boss doesn't play his cards according to common sense, and furthermore, I can't see through him. Fortunately, I booked a room yesterday," Qingya said with a light smile. Yi Zizi, who was at the side, was holding a small umbrella and licking her lips. There was so much delicious food in front of her. She almost couldn't hold it in anymore. Qin Yutong also held onto the small umbrella and acted cute. After poking Yi Zizi, Qin Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi immediately understood and raised his eyebrows. It seemed like the two of them didn't even need to talk to communicate anymore. They could only use their eyebrows. After taking the room card, everyone went upstairs to rest. Qingya decided to start taking the wedding photos tomorrow, then properly accompany Yi Hua to have a good rest and treat it as a honeymoon. While Yi Hua was currently on vacation happily, little Ali, who was far away in Voidless Realm, wasn't so lucky. He finished his homework in the morning, ate his lunch, and practiced his swordsmanship in the afternoon. Right now, Dong Huangli was brandishing a sword that was even longer than Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli's face was covered with sweat, but Dong Huangli didn't complain about it. Dong Huangli's eyes were filled with determination. I will definitely not disappoint my mother. When my mother sees my achievements, she will definitely be happy and reveal a smile on her face, and not frown all day long. Soft shouts rang out in the side courtyard, and the female attendants in the surroundings felt extremely distressed. Such a young child, under normal circumstances, would act like a spoiled child by her mother's side. Just because she was the Empress's child, did she have to work so hard? Your Highness, please take a rest. One of the maids said with a pained heart. Dong Huangli could be heard saying, there's no need for that, mother will definitely be happy to see how hardworking Ali is. The maid let out a light sigh. The Empress is very busy every single day, and she can only come over to see little His Highness at night. Dong Huangli repeatedly practiced the sword technique that her mother taught her, and her sweat had already drenched her clothes. Not knowing how long had passed, Dong Huangli kept her sword and looked towards her mother's bedroom. The bedroom is clearly right in front of me, but I can't go over. Your Highness, please take a rest. The maid brought over a cup of tea and said with concern. Ali misses mother. Dong Huangli didn't take the cup of tea and said in a daze. The maid was a bit flustered, and immediately knelt in front of Dong Huangli. Your Highness, the Empress has given the order, Your Highness is not allowed to walk out of this side courtyard without permission. How could Dong Huangli not know about this? Dong Huangli let out a light breath. Big Sister Ping, it's all Ali's fault. I made you all follow Ali and live here. Perhaps, Ali shouldn't even exist in this world. Dong Huangli slowly squatted down and hugged onto her legs. From the moment Dong Huangli was born until now, she had never left this side courtyard. Other than those 8 elders, no one knew that the Empress had a daughter. Even the maids that were serving the Empress were not allowed to step out of the side courtyard. Of course, there were also the Empress's imperial guards that were stationed at the entrance of the side courtyard. These maids had watched Dong Huangli grow up day by day. However, the more they watched Dong Huangli grow up, the more their hearts ached. The Empress is too heartless. However, Dong Huang Baiji had her own difficulties as well. Ali's birth was unknown, and if this matter were to be spread out, the consequences would be unthinkable. It might even implicate the entire voidless realm. In this world, which mother would be willing to lock their child up? Your Highness. The maid lightly hugged onto Dong Huangli and comforted her. Let's go back to our room. Dong Huangli took another look at her mother's bedroom, then dragged her petite back into the room. The 3 maids immediately went to prepare hot water and food. After eating dinner by herself, Dong Huangli sat in front of the window and looked at the stars. Dong Huangli was already used to it. Originally, there was a computer that allowed me to interact with the outside world, but right now, I don't even have a computer anymore. I can only continue to be in a daze and wait for my mother to come over. I should be able to sleep after hugging my mother. I should be able to have a good dream, right? I should be able to dream that my mother will bring me to sit on a pirate ship, eat ice cream, and eat McDonald's. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Dong Huangli waited for an unknown amount of time. Dong Huangli turned her head around and looked at the door. Mother still hasn't come over. Dong Huangli stood up and walked to the door. It was very quiet outside the door. Dong Huangli wrinkled her brows, then walked to the door of the courtyard with small steps. From the crack of the door, she saw that there was someone standing outside the courtyard. Dong Huangli was a bit disappointed. She turned around and walked towards the courtyard. If only I am able to pass through the wall. What is my mother doing right now? Suddenly, Dong Huangli's petite body disappeared from the courtyard, and when she reappeared, she was already outside the wall. Dong Huangli was badly frightened by herself. Looking at the guards that were tens of meters away, Dong Li immediately ran to the corner and covered her mouth. Wasn't I inside the courtyard just now? Why did I come out? Also, my head feels so dizzy, I am seeing double. After a long while, Dong Li finally came back to her senses. Originally, Dong Li wanted to go back to the courtyard, but when she saw her mother's bedroom, Dong Li wanted to hug her mother before going back to sleep. Since Dong Li had already decided, she walked towards her mother's bedroom. This was the first time that Dong Li walked outside of her mother's bedroom. Every single grass and every single tree was able to arouse Dong Li's curiosity. Unknowingly, Dong Li felt very happy. Soon, Dong Li arrived outside of her mother's bedroom. Dong Li muttered, "There are so many guards, if only I could go in like how I did just now." Dong Li immediately appeared inside the bedroom. However, Dong Li was currently holding onto her head, looking like she was about to faint. However, when Dong Li saw that the bedroom was right in front of her, Dong Li became very excited. The lights in the bedroom are still lit, mother should still be dealing with some matters. Chapter 172. Before even reaching the entrance of the palace, Dong Li could already hear the voices of people talking inside. Seems like my mother is still busy, I'll just wait here and not disturb my mother. Within the palace, Dong Baiji was sitting on a purple gold chair while sipping on a cup of tea. Below her, there were two elders, Yuanda and Xinghan. Your Majesty, Ying family has already received our message and agreed to it without any hesitation. Yuanda had a joyous look on his face. The marriage with Ying family was a win-win situation. If the Empress is able to give birth to a baby boy, there won't be three big powers anymore, there will only be one big power. Xinghan said gravely, Your Majesty, Ji family seems to be doing something, it seems like they want to destroy the marriage. Yuanda snorted coldly, do you think that Ji family can contend against two big families? They are truly overestimating themselves. This marriage is related to the change of the entire situation, the aristocratic families and the big sects are getting restless. Xinghan was a bit worried. Although the marriage was good, a lot of people didn't want to see this kind of marriage, especially Ji family. Dong Baiji placed her right hand on her chin and asked faintly, what is the reaction of the aristocratic families in the north? Yuanda paused for a moment, then said with a frown, the 5 aristocratic families have sent their reports, 3 congratulate, and 2 oppose. What is the reason for the opposition? Dong Baiji asked calmly. Yuanda and Xinghan looked at each other, then Xinghan said gravely, Your Majesty is noble and holy, how can a mortal be worthy of the Empress? Dong Baiji laughed lightly, but she didn't say anything. After a while, Dong Baiji asked, what is the situation inside Ying family? Ying family's eldest young master seems to be a bit unhappy after receiving the news, and the second young master, Ying Kongsher, is holding a banquet in Sanya. Xinghan said with a smile. Dong Baiji said calmly, he is happy. Of course, being able to marry the Empress is his good fortune. Furthermore, the betrothal gifts are still being prepared, and we will be able to set off tomorrow morning. Bang! A clear and melodious sound interrupted everyone's conversation. Yuanda and Xinghan's expression darkened, and they immediately disappeared from where they stood and appeared outside of the palace. When they saw Dong Li, who had a surprised look on her face, they immediately paid their respects, Your Majesty. Dong Baiji walked out slowly. Looking at the teacup that was knocked over and her daughter who was still in a daze, Dong Baiji said, regarding the betrothal gifts, I'll leave it to you two. Go and check if anyone has seen Ali. If there is, you two should know what to do. Yes. Yes. Dong Baiji carried on to her absent-minded daughter, then disappeared from the bedroom and appeared in a small house within the courtyard. Lightly placing down her daughter, Dong Baiji said gravely, kneel down. Dong Huangli stood there foolishly, her entire head was completely stupefied. Mother is actually going to marry someone else. Mother doesn't want me anymore, and doesn't want father anymore. Kneel down. Dong Huang Baiji shouted out in a low voice. It is fortunate that I did not make a huge mistake tonight, however, I was truly too mischievous. Dong Huangli could be heard saying, I won't kneel. I dare you to say it one more time. Dong Huang Baiji looked at her daughter in disbelief. She actually dares to talk back to me. I won't kneel, I hate mother. Dong Huangli's body trembled, and 2 streams of tears flowed out from her eyes. Dong Huang Baiji's expression immediately changed as she raised her hand up high. However, Dong Huangli did not have the slightest bit of fear as she looked at her mother who seemed unfamiliar to her. In the end, Dong Huang Baiji didn't manage to slap Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Baiji retracted her hand. Ali, why do you hate mother? Is it because mother locked you up in here? Dong Huangli questioned her mother like a little adult. Mother, you are being disrespectful to father. Your father is already dead, why should I be disrespectful to him? In any case, if mother were to marry another man, it would be disrespectful to father. Furthermore, if mother were to give birth to another baby, she would definitely not want Ali anymore. Upon thinking that her mother would never come back to her house again, Dong Huangli cried even louder. Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh and prepared to carry her stubborn daughter. However, who knew that Dong Huangli would not allow her to carry her daughter and struggled free from her mother's embrace. Ali, you don't have to worry about adults' matters, you just have to do your homework. Dong Huangli could be seen kneeling onto the ground and begging, Mother, can you not marry another man? Is it because Ali is not good enough? Ali can sleep a few hours less in the future. As long as mother is happy, Ali is willing to do anything. Dong Huang Baiji's expression changed, however, she gradually regained her calmness and said, Go and rest early. After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji walked out of the house. However, when Dong Huang Baiji closed the door, a stream of tears flowed out from her eyes. However, very quickly, the tears evaporated, and the delicate look on her face disappeared. Ali, who was inside the house, sat powerlessly on the ground. Mother doesn't want me anymore. Within the 3 Seasons Hotel, Yihua had already fallen asleep while hugging on to Qingya, and Qingya, who was sleeping, had a smile on her face. I reckon that she was having a good dream. In another room, Qing Yutong and Yizizi began changing their clothes again. Big sister Qing, what clothes are we going to wear tonight? The uniform is still 2D, and it is still the maid uniform. Yizizi flipped through her suitcase, and inside the suitcase, there were all beautiful and cute clothes. Qing Yutong took out a set of nurse uniform, then revealed out an evil smile. Zizi, how about this set of mine? Awesome, then what should I wear to go to the disco dance? Yizizi said dispiritedly. Big sister will help you choose, this lowly version of the teacher uniform is quite cute. Wow, big sister Qing's eyes sure are good, it is the same as what Zizi was thinking. Yizizi hugged onto the clothes, seemingly like they were treasures. Change into the clothes, let's go. Go go. Not long after, the two changed into the uniforms. There was no need to talk about Qing Yutong, she wore a little white cap, matched with the nurse uniform, and added with white stockings, she was simply able to make people's blood spurt out. However, if Qingya were to see her little sister's appearance, she would definitely pick up a kitchen knife and chase after her, because right now, Qing Yutong still looked like her big sister. The lowly version of the teacher uniform on Yizizi was even more incredible, especially those 2 ponytails. Yizizi really wanted to grab onto one with each of her hands. Damn, Zizi, you are too cute, let big sister kiss you. Don't want. I won't let you kiss me. Qing Yutong didn't care so much and directly pounced onto Yizizi. The scene was a bit erotic, fill in the blanks yourself. After playing around for a short while, the two walked towards the bar downstairs of the Three Seasons Hotel. When the passers-by saw the two's attire, they were undoubtedly dumbfounded. Dressing up like this in the middle of the night, aren't you afraid of losing contact? In another room of the hotel, Jiu Yi also received the orders of his two masters. Right now, Jiu Yi was very gloomy. My two masters actually told me to go and kill someone, and it is even the same person. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? If I knew that it would be like this, I would have called someone else. I am not an assassin. Looking at the photo on my phone, this man is quite handsome. It is a pity that he provoked someone that he shouldn't have provoked. Jiu Yi raised up the two bottles in his hands. Killing someone without a trace. I heard from my masters that after drinking this medicine, I won't die for the time being, but when I want to die, I will die. These two masters are thinking the same thing. Chapter 173. There was a Three Seasons bar downstairs of the Three Seasons Hotel. The place was quite big, and the business was also very good. There was no shortage of men hunting for sex, and there was no shortage of women seeking excitement. As long as you had money, you could really do whatever you wanted here. The DJ in the bar stirred up the atmosphere. Countless young men and women shook their bodies crazily, enjoying the excitement of physical contact with strangers. In the corner of the bar, two men sat in the booth. They were dressed in ordinary clothes and were not eye-catching. However, no one could have imagined that one of the men was the second young master of the Ying family, Ying Kongsher, and the other was his personal attendant, Liu Bai. The two of them had been master and servant since they were young, and their relationship was quite good. At this time, Ying Kongsher was shaking his head along with the rhythm of the music. He was in a great mood, but Liu Bai, who was beside him, seemed very worried. "Young master, let's go back. It's enough for your wedding. Don't cause any trouble," Liu Bai suggested. When the young master received the news today, he was so excited that he almost went to the heavens. Not only did he want to hold a banquet, he even sneaked out to have fun tonight. Ying Kongsher laughed and shouted, "Bibi, cheer up. Who would know that I'm here? But I'm afraid that young master will harm you," Liu Bai said worriedly. "Do you know why Her Majesty chose me and not him?" Ying Kongsher asked with a confident smile. Liu Bai shook his head. Ying Kongsher patted Liu Bai's shoulder. Who would choose a troublemaker? Of course, they would choose someone who is easy to control, just like me. Liu Bai came to a sudden realization. Young master is wise, but marrying him will damage young master's reputation. Ying Kongsher laughed out loud and lit up a cigarette. "Bibi, you really don't know anything. Being able to suppress the Empress makes my life worth it. Young master is right. It's a pity that the Eastern Emperor doesn't have a male successor. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a share in it. In the end, I'm just a sower. But no matter what, the seed is still my Ying family's." Ying Kongsher gradually stopped smiling and said in a low voice, "Of course, young master is currently the person that all men in the world are envious of, and the expression that young master had today was also, 'Ah, my brother probably wants to kill me.' Young master, let's go back. Safety is more important." Liu Bai continued to persuade. Ying Kongsher smiled and said, all right, let's go back after playing for a while. Order a fruit platter and 2 bottles of beer." Liu Bai sighed. The young master was probably bored to death. The things of the secular world were just so attractive. At this moment, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi had also arrived at the entrance of the bar. I am almost unable to control the feeling of sucking people," Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth. Although it was not interesting for ordinary people to suck people, it was still better than nothing. "Two misses, can you give me face and drink a cup of wine?" Liu Bai could be seen walking in front of the two of them and shouting. Qing Yutong pulled Yi Zizi and straightforwardly agreed. There is a free drink to drink, it would be a waste not to drink. Lu Bai thought that it would be very hard to persuade them, but he didn't expect that it would be so easy. Seems like Gongzi is going to have good luck with women tonight. Seeing a beautiful woman leaving with a man, everyone was envious. This kind of thing is hard to encounter even once a year. Arriving at the booth, Inkongsher stood up, then stretched out his hand in a refined manner. Nice to meet you too. However, Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi ignored him, and even more so, did not stretch out their hand and directly sat on the booth. Inkongsher retracted his hand a bit awkwardly. All beautiful women have such personality. Big sister Qin, I am a bit thirsty. Yi Zizi pulled onto Qin Yutong's arm. Qin Yutong looked towards Inkongsher and said with a smile, handsome brother, you don't even have wine here, why did you call us over? Wine. No problem. Inkongsher nodded his head towards Lu Bai, and the latter immediately went to make arrangements. Beautiful woman, did you come to Sanya for a vacation? Inkongsher revealed a smile that he thought was very handsome. Yi Zizi said coquettishly, I'm not telling you, damn, this little loli is simply too cute. If I were to grab onto those two ponytails, how refreshing would that be? If I were to add on the service of this beautiful woman, would simply be as excited as pressing down on an empress. Mister, your wine is here. Jiu Yi walked over with a smile and placed 2 bottles of beer on the table. However, when he saw Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi, his expression immediately stiffened. Why is it them again? It is one thing to encounter them in the same bar, but to actually sit beside my target, what if they were to drink this wine? A waiter could be seen walking over, and under Jiu Ye's dumbfounded gaze, the waiter placed all of the wine on the table. Chapter 174. Lord Jiu was on the verge of tears. Qin Yutong was very puzzled, what exactly is this 9th master doing? He secretly disguised himself as a waiter and looked as if he had just eaten **tea, how about playing dice? Qin Yutong suggested. Whatever the beautiful lady says. Inkongsher smiled faintly. The moment he thought about grabbing onto Ponytail and attacking crazily, he was secretly delighted. Qin Yutong laughed lightly, it's just that it's boring if there are too few people. Lu Bai smiled and said, I can do it too. How about we call him along as well? Qin Yutong pointed at Jiu Yi with her delicate index finger. Jiu Yi was about to collapse. I really want to cry, but the person who wanted to cry even more was the other waiter. You guys actually ordered an old waiter, and not a young fellow. Could it be that the taste of beauties nowadays has changed? How could Lord Jiu agree? He hurriedly said, Sir, I have to go to work. Lu Bai threw a bundle of red notes and said, I'm familiar with the boss here. Lord Jiu was also afraid that if he continued to refuse, his scheme would be exposed. All right. But there were at least 60 bottles here. Which 2 bottles were drugged? F***ck. This woman was a devil. Nothing good ever came out of meeting her. If you lose, you will lose a bottle. Qin Yutong said tenderly. Inkongsher gave her a thumbs up and said, Beauty, you're so straightforward. 1 bottle it is. He saw that Yi Zizi had already opened a bottle and was drinking it first as a sign of respect. Burp. Looking at Yi Zizi's appearance when she burped, it was so adorable that everyone was about to explode. Inkongsher couldn't wait any longer. Little loli, my love, the 5 of them were playing dice, and they were drinking bottle after bottle. Soon, half of the bottles were gone. Lord Jiu drank about 10 bottles, and he didn't know if he had drunk poison. He felt unwell. It was all their fault. Why did they come here to drink? If they didn't come, the 2 bottles of wine they had just brought would have been drunk by this target. Although it was fine to drink the wine, as long as he cast a spell, he would instantly die on the spot. If the master cast a spell now, he would definitely die. Which 2 bottles were they? Because he was worried about the poisoned wine bottle, Lord Jiu was not in the mood to play the game. But because he was not in the mood to play, the chances of him losing were higher, so of course, he drank more. Not long after, the wine bottles on the table were emptied. Just who was it that drank those 2 bottles, Zhou Yi also did not know, but he knew that the probability of him being the one that drank those 2 bottles was higher. This beer is boring, serve it white. Qing Yutong snorted. In Kongsha couldn't wait to get them drunk. Therefore, he simply used the liquor with the highest alcohol content. Of course, he didn't drink it 1 bottle at a time. Instead, he drank it in small cups. Other than Zhou Yi, those sitting here were either old monsters or people with systems. Of course, there were also 2 cultivators. The pitiful Zhou Yi was probably going to cry himself to sleep in the toilet. Why did the immortals call a mortal like him to join in on the fun? Yi Zizi was a little bored. It was not as exciting as I stab you and you stab me. She was playing with Inkongsha's Zippo lighter. Lord Jiu could no longer hold on and was the first to fall. The others were like drinking water. The drunk Lord Jiu revealed a gratified smile. He must have dreamed that he had completed the mission. Beauty, you've lost again. Inkongsha chuckled. However, it was strange. This woman had already drunk quite a bit. Why wasn't she drunk? Qing Yutong snorted, then looked at Yi Zizi who was playing with the lighter, then said, "Handsome brother, your luck is not bad." Qing Yutong could be seen standing up, then filling up the beer for herself, then filling up the beer for Inkongsha. However, right at this moment, Qing Yutong seemed to be a little unstable. She swung her delicate hand, and a small cup of liquor spilled onto Inkongsha's crotch. Yi Zizi was startled. She swung the lighter in her hand, and it just so happened to land on Inkongsha's crotch. "Big sister Qing, are you drunk?" "Fire! Fire! Fire!" Inkongsha was a little stupefied. Who doesn't stupefy when his crotch is on fire? Inkongsha immediately patted his crotch. Yi Zizi turned pale with fright. "Don't panic, I'm here to save you." Yi Zizi could be seen pouring the liquor on the table. Pooh! The fire became a little more ferocious. Lu Bai hurriedly prepared to save Inkongsha, but Qing Yutong pushed him away with her delicate hand and shouted, "Let me do it." The 10 centimeters high heel directly stabbed towards the fire. No! Ah! Inkongsha let out a miserable scream. However, his scream was drowned out by the music, and adding that it was at a corner, who would look at him? "Zizi, quickly come and help me." Qing Yutong stepped on Inkongsha's crotch with all her might. Meanwhile, Lu Bai was lying on the sofa, unable to move at all as he watched his young master being humiliated. Yi Zizi's body was rather short, and thus, she stood on the sofa and stepped on the fire. Inkongsha who had fainted was woken up by the pain, and he just happened to see Yi Zizi's foot landing on the fire. "Don't." Inkongsha felt that his crotch seemed to be missing something, and it felt empty. "Don't speak, Zizi is here to save your life." After finished speaking, Yi Zizi ferociously stepped on Inkongsha's crotch, and Inkongsha immediately fainted again. "Just how big of a grudge do you have against my crotch? Furthermore, you are not saving my life, you are trying to take my life." The rescue was still going on, and after stomping on Inkongsha ferociously for around 5 minutes, the fire was finally extinguished. Qing Yutong wiped off the sweat on her forehead. Luckily, no one was burnt. Yi Zizi sighed. He was too careless. If it weren't for the 2 of us, he would have been burned to death. Lu Bai felt that he could control his body again, and he pounced towards his young master. "Young master! Young master! Wake up! Quickly bring him to the hospital, we can only help him to this point. Zizi, let's go." After finished speaking, Qing Yutong pulled Yi Zizi and left. Walking out of the bar, the 2 of them shook their eyebrows, high-fived each other, and hopped back to sleep. How dare you tease me, I will stomp on you in the bar." Lu Bai looked at young master's crotch. It was dyed red with fresh blood. It was probably a mess of flesh and blood. No. No. He had to go back and get treated. Lu Bai carried in Kongsher on his back and left quickly. Lord Zhou, who was originally drunk, immediately opened his eyes. If he did not pretend to be drunk just now, who knows how much he would have drunk. But when he squinted his eyes and saw them being violent, he couldn't help but touch his crotch. It was too cruel. A living person was trampled into a cripple by them, thinking about how those 10 centimeters high heels pierced into his body, that kind of sour feeling. I reckon that only my target would be able to experience it. Now is not the time to think about this. I have to report to my master. Please don't use any magic. After changing his clothes, Lord Zhou immediately returned to his room and sent a message to one of his masters. "Master, the poison seems to have been drunk by me." After waiting for a long time, his master finally replied. Lord Zhou was a bit stupefied. "I don't understand what these 6 dots mean. But no matter what, I still have to report back the message that I just received." "Master," although the target did not die, his balls exploded. Lord Zhou's master clearly did not react to what Lord Zhou said, and was still thinking about what the word balls meant. After a long time, he replied, "What do you mean?" Lord Zhou wanted to give this master of mine a new definition. "You don't even understand this. Don't tell me that you are still a virgin. The target might have become a eunuch right now." After finished speaking, Lord Zhou waited for a reply. "As long as the target doesn't scold me and give me the antidote, it will be fine." "Little Zhou, well done." Looking at the reply, Lord Zhou was very stupefied. "What is going on? What do you want? Tell me. Anything is fine." Lord Zhou was stupefied. This might be a blessing in disguise. Chapter 175. Right now, Lu Bai was carrying in Kongsher on his back and flying towards the sea surface at high speed while muttering, "Young master, hold on, we are almost there." If I knew that this would be the end result, I would have already persuaded young master to go back home. How am I going to explain such a big matter to him? In the sky, Lu Bai suddenly stopped and took out a token. A white halo appeared in front of him and directly passed through. It was still the sea surface, but there was an island not far away. There were ancient buildings built on the island, and a towering city gate extended to both sides of the island. Day and night, the city gate faced the sea and the sunrise. The city gate was grand and magnificent. There were more than 20 buildings on the city gate, but it didn't feel crowded or repetitive at all. There were pavilions, terraces, waterside pavilions, strange rocks, flower beds, and bonsai decorating the buildings. When the guards on the city gate saw someone flying over, they immediately raised their vigilance and shouted, "Who are you? Quickly get out of the way, this is the second young master." Lu Bai shouted. The guards were startled and immediately kept their weapons and lowered their heads. Lu Bai didn't think too much and ran straight towards the center of the buildings. That was the resting place of Ying family's family master. As the family master of Ying family, Ying Jingshan didn't have many wives and concubines. In his entire life, he only had this one woman by his side, and her name was Yu He. This was the woman that Ying Jingshan met when he went out to train. She didn't have an astonishing appearance, but she was able to move this man's heart. And Yu He was just an ordinary person. Nestling in her husband's embrace, Yu He slightly frowned and said, "Jingshan, won't Kong or be wronged by marrying her?" "How can that be? The other party is Donghuang Baiji, there are countless men who want to marry her. Kong or being able to have such a life is also his fortune. Besides, this marriage is not bad." As the family master of Ying family, of course, he would consider everything. And as a mother, she would definitely only consider her son's happiness. He sighed lightly, but I keep feeling uneasy. I heard that this empress is very tyrannical. I'm afraid that Kong will be at a disadvantage. Things will change after getting married. Right now, what we should be worrying about is Ho's marriage. Did he fancy any girl from any family? Jingshan asked with a smile. Jingshan still felt that his eldest son, Ho, was more suitable to inherit his position. At first, he thought that his youngest son would be wronged, but he didn't expect that his youngest son would be marrying Donghuang Baiji. Looking at my eldest son's attitude today, it seems like he is unwilling to give up. Chapter 176. Yuha couldn't take this kind of blow and fainted. My son is actually unable to have sex. Jingshan carried his wife back to the room to rest, then came to the main hall. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. On the other hand, the other family members didn't seem to care much about it. To them, this might be an opportunity. Could it be that the empress is going to marry a eunuch? How is that possible? He is not the only boy in the huge Ying family. Xiang said, "Big brother, it has only been a day, and nephew Kong is already like this. How are we going to explain this to the empress?" "That's right, big brother. It is already very shameful for such a thing to happen to Ying family. The betrothal gifts are going to be sent over tomorrow, big brother. It is better for you to make plans as soon as possible." Shang also followed and said, "If my son marries the empress, that would be the rhythm of a meteoric rise. Furthermore, big brother only has 2 sons, one has become a eunuch, and the other has to marry out, leaving the position of the family head empty. Or continue to be the family head and let the other boys marry out. You can't have your cake and eat it too. This matter must be investigated thoroughly." Ho. Jingshan shouted gravely. "Yes. Bring back the waiters of the bar and those 2 girls. I would like to see who dares to mess with our Ying family." "Yes." It was impossible to find Jiu Yi. All of the registered information was fake, and right now, Jiu Yi had already returned to Long An City in the middle of the night, and his butt was wiped clean. However, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were not that lucky. Xiang said hurriedly, "Big brother, tracking down the culprit behind the scenes is important, but how do we answer the empress tomorrow is also important. Let me think about it, all of you go and rest." Jingshan waved his hand, feeling depressed in his heart. Unexpectedly, Shang said, "Big brother, nephew Kong is going to hold a banquet at 3 Seasons Hotel tomorrow. Should we cancel this banquet? He is already like that, he can't even stand up, and there is still a banquet to celebrate. Celebrate that there is another father-in-law in this world. Cancel it." Kongsher said, then left to take a look at his son's injuries. The other family members shook their heads, then left after chatting with Ho for a bit. After everyone left, Ho revealed a trace of a smile. "This Jiu Ye's way of handling things is really unexpected. This is even more ruthless than killing people. Presumably, those 2 girls should be called by Jiu Yi as well. What was so good about being the Ying family's patriarch? It was only interesting to be the empress man. As for the 2 girls, of course, he couldn't capture them. If they confessed, he would be finished. Since that was the case, he could only kill them. Lord Zhou still had some use for them, so he wouldn't kill them for now." In Kongsher's room, Lu Bai accompanied him and took care of him attentively. Right now, young master's face was pale, and he already looked like a father-in-law. "How miserable. How is it?" Jingshan walked over and asked. Lu Bai respectfully said, "Divine Dr. Song said that second young master is fine and will wake up soon." Just as he finished speaking, Kongsher, who was lying on the bed, woke up with a frown. Father, Lu Bai, you guys are all here." Inkongshir said with a faint smile. He did not feel that he had lost an organ. Seeing the strange expression on the two people's faces, Inkongshir immediately recalled what happened just now. Lowering his head to take a look, I feel empty, young master, don't touch it. Divine Dr. Song just applied the medicine. Lu Bai hurriedly warned. The corner of Inkongshir's mouth began to twitch. His crotch area was flat, and his facial expression changed drastically. Calm down. Ing Jingshan wasn't feeling well either. His son was crippled, who would be able to accept it? Father, save me, I don't want to have no foundation. If I don't have any foundation, how am I going to marry the Empress? 2 hours ago, he was still having a sweet dream, fantasizing about the Empress's body, but now, what exactly happened? Ing Jingshan didn't want to give his son a blow. You definitely can't get married. Inkongshir's expression immediately became sinister. Father, it's those 2 women. Those 2 women did it on purpose. I am going to hack them into pieces. I am going to be a prostitute forever. I heard from Lu Bai that there was a 7 or 8 years old child among them. Ing Jingshan questioned. Although he felt heartache, he was also hateful. If it wasn't for you lusting after women, how could such a thing have happened? To actually lay your hands on a child, you have lost all your face. Inkongshir immediately thought of Yizizi's face, that petite figure, and that pair of ponytails. It's a pity that it's impossible for me to grab onto those ponytails right now, not even in this lifetime. Father, I only invited them for a drink, I don't have any other motive. Inkongshir hurriedly explained. Ing Jingshan let out a deep sigh. Father, I still have to hold a banquet tomorrow. I will cancel it for you. You just have to properly recuperate at home. Ing Ho has already caught the person who injured you. After finished speaking, Ing Jingshan walked out. His mood was very bad. Cancel? How can I cancel it? If I do that, wouldn't I be ridiculed by everyone? Ridiculing me for standing up is better than ridiculing me for being a father-in-law. Ing Jingshan's thoughts were very simple. This matter can't be spread out. If there is a need, Kong can't go out in this lifetime. Ing family can't afford to lose this face. However, this is impossible. Ing family is definitely going to lose this face. Young master. Lu Bai shouted out in concern. Inkongshir's eyes were lifeless. He wasn't stupid. Father's meaning just now was very clear. I who have no foundation, it's impossible for me to marry the Empress. I am not resigned. I have to be so careful when I go out tonight. I must have been discovered by someone. Big Brother is the biggest suspect. Thinking back to Big Brother's expression in the morning, Inkongshir seemed to have already confirmed it, and thought silently in his heart, if I can't get it, don't even think about getting it. Looking at the young master's pair of gloomy and cold eyes, Lu Bai was endlessly worried. Within the 3 Seasons Hotel, Qing Yutong and Yizizi took a bath and wore cute pajamas. It was normal for Inkongshir to have such a thought. Even if there wasn't Inkongshir, there would still be other tycoons who invited them, and the ending should be more or less the same. Inkongshir can only blame himself for being too unlucky. He is destined to not be able to become the Empress man. Zizi, you were really smart just now. Qing Yutong pinched onto Yizizi's little face. Originally, when she saw Yizizi playing with the lighter, she conveniently knocked over the wine glass, and very quickly, Yizizi's little hand trembled, causing the lighter to fall onto the glass. One could well imagine what would happen if the 2 of them were to stay together. This was also the reason why Yihua didn't want Yizizi and Qing Yutong to be together. To Yizizi, this was just a child's play. Yizizi revealed out 2 cute little dimples. Zizi has long been unable to stand the sight of him. Originally, I wanted to burn him with fire. Damn, Zizi, you are so violent. This won't do. Girls have to be more obedient. Qing Yutong guided attentively. Big sister Qing, Zizi learned it from you. You are so straightforward when you step on him. Qing Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi immediately understood. The two turned on their computers. It was impossible for them not to eat chicken before going to bed. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.